Okay.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Ready? This is a meeting of the Hamden Board of Selectmen, June 15th, 2020, 6 p.m. from our remote location at Thornton Burgess Middle School. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is anyone recording the meeting other than us? And I would also encourage anyone who's home right now watching that the town meeting begins at 7 o'clock. There's still time to come down in democracy, the New England town meeting. First item on the agenda, the minutes, executive session minutes of June 1st, 2020. No? Any corrections? Motion to accept?
Well, I'll make a motion to accept both the executive and regular session, June 1st.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Highway superintendent, the work program. Go ahead. I don't know, maybe if you stand here, they can at least hear, I think you should be able to hear them, right? Maybe you should go. We'll be able to, if Mark sits where you were, Bob.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good.
So just like in past years, what I usually do is come up with a project list
We'll
and,
just speak up a little bit.
yeah, and bring them up to the Board of Selectmen for discussion. So I've submitted it was actually a second draft due to the reduction of dollars in the paving. So that second draft reflects that. It does come in kind of tight. However, I think I'll be able to save even a little bit more on the projects, not to mention, I will have, I'm sure I'll have some highway maintenance money to be able to, and it won't go over, but if it were to, I'm confident it won't. So.
Mark, one of the things we talked about was a possible restoration in the fall of some amount. No commitment to that.
Sure.
Secondly, Don had informed us that there was a initiative in the state with extra Chapter 90 money. Is this inclusive of that, or are you waiting until it actually passes and then maybe a supplemental?
So no, I haven't got a figure for
Yeah.
what you were talking about, Don. This Chapter 9 state aid funding our annual allotment we got in the fall an extra 25,665.
Right.
So those combined comes to the 282,313.
Don,
Certainly can't wait
what's
to
the
hear.
number if they go to 300? What does that bring to our town? Is it another 40 or 50? Or?
No,
Actually, it was
it's a
another
50% increase, so it'd be like almost
Yeah,
$100,000.
originally it's a 200 million bond,
Right.
and now it goes to 300 million.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you do it proportionally like they've been, it'd be almost another $100,000.
That might be the restoration of
And I can double check with our state engineer on that, just as far as timing, how much he has.
House and Senate have passed it, and it's part of an $18 billion transportation bill. And it's gonna be funded. The only thing they have to work out is a portion for the MBTA. They're trying to create a new advisory board for the MBTA. But the House and Senate have agreed on that $300 million.
So, everything equals to 441.
Yes, well, on the first two pages, the last two pages are other proposed projects. If there was something on there that the board felt, was more important, I can refigure this and fit it in. Or if and when we do get some extra money, or if I do see extra money in the fall, I can plug one of these projects in
The town clerk is nearly always in the office, and others come in to do their,
So pretty much even, Jane.
yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Let's
Jane's
remind
always
you.
there as well.
Was there warrants today?
I think I asked Pam about that. She's pretty sure Dick will probably bring them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the work of the town is going forward. I think it would make sense to open in 2 phases, just as we closed in 2 phases. Phase number 1, bring all the town employees back. The setup that's going to be used upstairs in the auditorium for the election
Mhm.
will then be turned over for use when we open the building. And the plan that seems to make the most sense is to funnel everyone in through the front door of Town Hall into the auditorium, where there'll be a receptionist. We're talking with some people about that. We could have like a tax work-off program. We can also pay for a receptionist. And then the receptionist would be in contact with town departments, department heads, who either come upstairs and deal with the person who has an issue, or they can connect over the phone. And that way we will not have the public going through the offices or the library. Well, the library also has a plan where they will keep certain distance from the public in terms of exchanging books and so forth. So I think this will come together and we can reopen the town hall and be as safe as one can be under these circumstances.
Right.
What about the senior center?
The senior center, the other issue I think I have on my report tonight is the discussion of waivers. Senior center is going to be able to reopen, but the question that Becky has, should the town adopt a waiver system for those who go to the senior center. Other towns have done that. I've asked town council to draft a waiver, a sample waiver, and we need to have further discussion of that, but that might be, you know, a simple way to protect the town against lawsuits by those who might come to the senior center, contract COVID-19, and then try and hold the town accountable for that.
We have to keep these? Nice. I would question that, and I think Don mentioned it before. We always talk about these waivers and that indemnifies, it never seems to, they always sue anyhow. What's the advice of the state? I know Becky is actually, I think, the executive director of the state organization. Do they think really these waivers provide protection? Or is it really a feel-good thing?
I don't have any information on that, but the governor and the MMA do a 1-hour presentation every Tuesday. I watch every Tuesday. They have not addressed this yet. Up to now, the governor's been addressing basically the private economy. They've talked a little bit about restaurants, alcoholic beverage licenses, what needs to be done by restaurants that want to open up outside, and the filing that's necessary with the ABCC. But apart from that, the administration hasn't addressed reopening municipal town halls at this point. My sense is that we'll be ready. We were talking today about when the best time would be. Perhaps Monday after the 4th of July.
Right. Anything else on that?
I think that's as far as we go right now.
McNamara trash hauling contract.
Talked with town council about that today. They are still at work with McNamara, but closing in on the final copy.
Okay, July 1st is coming.
I know it is.
That pile's getting taller and taller.
Right? Anything else? The other item on the agenda is the Hampden-Wilbraham Regional School District Budget Assessment. The story behind that is that the region it was wanting an additional $350,000 for one-time expenses. There was some discussion that Wilbraham would pay $275,000, Hampden would pay $75,000. Somewhere in the paperwork, it never got transmitted to either either of the towns. It's on the town warrant tonight for Wilbraham, not on ours. And they're going to amend that to lower their assessment. And then they'll bring it all back to both towns in the fall after they see what they're getting in their chapter 70 and 71 money and that stuff.
Right, I think your point is well taken, that since there's such uncertainty about what funding they're gonna get statewide.
Yeah.
It's very premature to talk about any extra help from both
Additional,
towns.
right.
I did apprise Howard Barber that we were going to be discussing this tonight, and I gave him the code for this meeting.
Okay.
I think we're.
All right, that's,
Pretty well
so
settled,
that's, that won't be on the, okay. The fire chief appointment. We asked you to check the references.
I have positive references for our candidates. And clearly, all four of the candidates are qualified to be the fire chief for the town of Hampton. It's really a decision of the board as to which person could serve us the best.
I know it wasn't mentioned last week, but we did have a letter from Jeff Farnsworth.
We did, yes.
And a letter from Mike Gorski, also
Correct.
both endorsing
Yes,
Chief Poulin.
yes. I sent you copies of those letters.
All right. Mary Ellen, do you have any?
Yeah, I spent some time during the week to look at the length and breadth and depth of experience of all the candidates based on their interview and their resume, their educational level, what they have been certified in, do they have college degrees and so forth, what their association with Hampton has been, their knowledge of the town, what their leadership style looked like it would, what you can tell from an interview, what their leadership style might be, and how they did on the interview. And I will say that all the candidates presented themselves well, I thought, but I did see a differentiation between, using this rating scale, I gave 4 points, 4 to 1. And using that rating scale, I did see a differentiation between the candidates. I thought that Mr. Dowdy, who is from Washington, lacked significant experience with a small town like ours, and had a wealth of experience, but it just didn't seem like it was a fit to Hampton. Okay, that was his biggest area of concern that I had. I thought that Mr. Farrow also did well. The education and the length and breadth and depth of his experience was not quite the same as the other two candidates. Although he did a good job at his interview, and I thought he had strengths. I wasn't sure that he was the candidate. Mr. Poulin, I thought we have a lot of knowledge of, because he has been before the board on several occasions and has shown his knowledge and his skill set. I think his education was a little lacking, and his communication style was different than the other three. And finally, Mr. Hatch, I thought had a good resume, had a lot of experiences, is a native of Hampton. I think except for Mr. Dowdy, they've all had exposure to Hampton and have had a relationship with Hampton. I thought that the fact that he had a college degree in the field, the fact that he taught at the academy, or what they call it the academy, I'm not sure what they call the fire instructional school, were assets for him. He seemed to be able to take control of the interview and communicate clearly and succinctly. So that was my impression of all of them. I was interested in the references and what that added to the mix. I think it is a difficult decision, but I would be interested in what other people thought.
Well, I thought all four candidates were excellent, and I was very, very pleased that we had four good candidates that really I thought were qualified and interested and had experience. Again, with Mr. Dowdy, I thought he was an excellent candidate, but I don't think he was a fit for a small town. I think his larger metropolitan experience. And I weighed the back and forth with Mr. Hatch and Mr. Farrell back and forth. And then I fell back on what I learned from many years of hiring people, from hiring lawyers and division chiefs and department heads in the Attorney General's office and the District Attorney's office. And you hire people who make you look better. You know, you hire smart, you hire smart people, I hire people that are going to challenge you. And one of the interviewees said that Mr. Poulin had taken him under their wing and kind of mentored them. And I thought, that's a leadership thing, and that shows leadership. And uh, it, I also saw how Ed has handled the transition for the department and going forward from part-time, from a volunteer chief essentially to a part-time chief. And I just kept going back to, he's put together a good team. They seem to be working well. He's got some good young people that I hope would stay. And so in the end, I decided that I think my feeling is to stay with Ed because I think he's put together a good team and he's shown that he's willing to take input from other people. So he came out higher in the end. At that.
I think Mary Ellen's brought up some good points. There are good metrics for everybody. We had 4 excellent candidates. If we didn't have the other 3, Mr. Doughty may be our choice because he has a great background. But I think there are some tangible things. We have a clear command structure in the fire department now. We can continue that and provide the other people with a clear path towards that goal in the future without really disrupting what's going on. We would be well served by having a chief who lives in town, the only candidate who does, who is in town every day, whereas some other candidates might be in service in their other jobs. I believe they said like a 24 schedule and may not be there. And that's important too. I think, Don, your point that both other candidates referenced the fact that the chief had mentored them and provided leadership to them was critical. That was key. There was no hint of the fact that I'm bringing something along that could replace me. No, it's my job to teach the other people and bring them in. We'd be well served with all of them, I think, but I think the tangibles that I see lead me to support continuing with Chief Poulin.
The other thing that I did consider was where would each of them try to take the fire department? And I thought having a new set of eyes look at the situation that we have going relative to ambulance and fire department and the balance. That was one of the questions that I asked of most of the candidates, I think, which they all said that the fire departments are going towards the ambulance.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that was not, they didn't have different positions on that. They were all pretty similar. But I think sometimes it's good to bring in new blood and not to have the same old routine that you've always had. I know that when in my job, when we've had a new principal, it had really invigorated our whole school, and it got us all moving again. So I like that idea of having that reinvigoration and that and a fresh set of eyes. So
Well, to that point, Mr. Farrell has come to several meetings and spoken freely about the ambulance thing and responded. And I saw him, he's more like a right-hand man to Ed. And really, and they both of them complimented Ed on his, like John said, their mentoring and that stuff. So I just felt that that a leader brings in people who are new and are willing to work and are willing to learn and also are strong enough to speak up and say, look, I think this is what we should do. And I think, Ed seems to have listened to that in a lot of ways.
And he's put these people in leadership
He's
roles
put these people in
already,
leadership
so
roles.
there's no hesitancy towards that. And I see
so
with what's going on with the change in the building, et cetera, to introduce more, I don't want to say turmoil, but more change doesn't seem to really benefit what we're trying to do here. When we can,
well, what I hear us saying is that I favor Hatch and that you favor Poulin and that John favors Poulin. Would we be interested in doing a second interview with just those 2 candidates and going into more depth, or do you feel that we are at the point where you have made a decision, and no matter what happened at a second interview, it probably wouldn't impact your positions.
I feel we've heard from
I-
all the kids. I'm willing to just.
Pardon me,
We deserve, they deserve to not be dragged out any further. I think it's a point you've made, Mary Ellen, that we can't just keep kicking the can down the road.
Oh, I believe that.
We have to, what's the expression? Fish or cut bait, I think, time to go fishing.
Yeah, good, all right, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to, is there a time frame here? I'm trying to think in the past, typically we haven't made a time frame per se. Is this an annual appointment, which I'm not terribly in favor of for a department like this?
Yeah. I don't know.
I would like to see, because you want the guy to have some,
Security and yet
well,
some,
security in the fact that I'm gonna start something, I want to be able to see it through.
Yeah.
I think we should be talking at least a minimum 2-year appointment, maybe even 3.
Okay, let's
No
do a
matter who
2-year
it
appointment.
was,
Let's do a 2-year
let's
appointment.
start to see how it goes. And I would make a motion to appoint interim chief Poulin to the role of fire chief effective July 1st through June 30th, 2022.
Two-year contract.
Yes.
Do we want a contract or is this going to be an
It's a
appointment?
term. It's an appointment.
Sorry?
An appointment.
An appointment,
Please,
okay.
Any second? I'll second it. Any further discussion? All in favor?
John
John?
Glenn, aye.
Don Davenport, aye. Mary Ellen, no.
I reluctant, I like when the board has unanimity and can go along
Yeah.
together. I do, however, feel that the fire department has to resell its message, and I really think it needs a new look, and have somebody else come in and look at it and say, I think things are going fabulously, or no, I don't think things are going fabulously. I think that these are the kinds of changes that we should be making, and that has had exposure to more than just Hamden. It teaches the courses and it works in another department, and so has a broader range is where I'm coming from. So I really have to vote my conscience. It is
Yeah,
nothing
well, that's
against
what you're
Mr. Poulin.
supposed to
It's got
do.
nothing against Mr. Poulin or any of the other candidates, because I
That's
think they
what
were
you-
all fine candidates, but
What you're supposed
I
to do.
just don't see that I can see
Okay,
myself able to do that.
so Bob, would you see that
So we have to take a vote.
an appoint, what?
Oh, we did take a
We
vote.
think about,
Ugh.
an appointment letter goes to Mr. Poulin and that
Other letters, your chief is right down here.
I know, he's not paying attention though. So we have to send him a letter.
Okay.
And
then
the other,
tack something
the
else.
other 3 people send them a letter, and I'd like to review it before we send it out, okay?
All right. Chief?
Yeah. Pressure.
Only 2.
Thornton Burgess roof.
I had forwarded Ed's email at the beginning of the month, and I re-forwarded it today as well. So he gave us a little recap. I was hoping Ed would be here, but he's probably getting his seat ready for the big meeting in Wilbraham. So if you had a chance to read over his recap, reality is, and Don, you may have been on the board when this roof went in.
I was.
We've gotten our money out of it.
Yeah.
Because originally, I think it was a 20-year roof, and didn't the bonding company go out of business after?
Yeah, they went.
So because of the work they've done, I think Rivet is one of the companies, the roof is in
There
good
you are,
shape.
sir.
Some flashing issues, you probably read over
Yeah.
a couple things. No different than you see in any industrial building. By and large, we got our money out of it and it's holding up. One thing I think I did mention to the board that I had talked to a couple of solar companies, that if we were interested in pursuing, like a lot of industrial places do, putting a new roof on, there might be an offset where if they put solar on, they pay part of the cost. And that's something I think to consider if we go down this road.
Anything else?
I think just applaud Ed for keeping the roof up, and we're
So-
not, nothing dripping on us right now.
What's the direction? You're just reviewing it. You're not
Just reviewing,
making any
no, not making any.
decision tonight, okay?
The waivers form you're working on.
We're gonna work on that. We
Okay.
should have that. I talked to Rose about that today. Should have it for you next week.
Okay. And the last thing is the town administrator's report.
Report, you should have a copy. We need a policy or a decision from the Board of Selectmen regarding vacation time for the current fiscal year. Employees are asking, because of what's happened, a number of them have accumulated vacation days and want to know what we're doing.
Well,
I thought we did something with
well,
that.
he's talking a different thing. I thought, remember, last year we said, okay, everybody's going to July 1st
Yeah.
vacation. You're talking about because people were home, they may have more of a bank than they
Correct.
anticipated.
Correct.
When people were home during this, they were being
Is it
paid,
new?
correct?
Yes. So I think,
I would like, my proposal to the board would be, let's have Bob see what these kind of numbers are here. We
Okay.
do have the opportunity, to be honest, I wouldn't want people to have too big a bank, but they shouldn't lose it.
Yeah,
What kind of money are we talking about just to pretty much buy out their days? And let's get
See what
everybody
that
back
looks like.
on the form. I don't think we can't be talking huge money.
no.
all right, so next week I'll come back to you with the numbers,
Right,
okay?
okay,
I mentioned we did receive 51,000. We've applied for 43,000 more. McNamara contract is pending. Action Ambulance contract is completed and signed. They will begin service July 1st, assuming the town meeting goes well. Contract with Smith Associates. Unfortunately, I was informed today that it's going to be 8 weeks. Maybe sooner, but that's what I was told.
Did you pass that on to Steve?
Yeah.
Did you
Yes.
pass that on to Steve? Okay.
Yes.
Senior Center, dollar.
Waivers, town hall reopening. The eMist electrostatic sprayers that we're buying are also going to be delayed 8 weeks. Message from the chief today, who got sent me the message actually from the company that they're back ordered. And then I mentioned to you earlier that we're going to have HWRSD custodians provide sanitization services to the building. And that's basically my report. We haven't talked about procedure for restaurant reopening, but you've already allowed 3.
Yeah, right.
So no problem as far
Pretty
as
much
I
all of
know.
them right there. One thing, when you do the department head and staff meeting, could you remember to make sure you keep sending the invite codes to the 3 of us, because, sometimes we see it,
Yeah.
sometimes we don't.
Sometimes you don't get it. Well, okay, I'll make sure. I think you're on the global distribution list. Pretty sure you are. Okay, well, anyway, this is what you agreed to last week. These are the motion assignments and the motions here. And these are going to go only to the people here at the table and the advisory committee and a few others. The distribution for those who are here for the town meeting will include the articles themselves, the green sheets, and summaries of the various articles.
All right. Anything else to come before the board? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have to say, this